Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I am pleased to have two guests with me. I have both author John Van Stry and publisher Ian McMurtrie to talk about a brand new publishing initiative that they're doing with the book Misplaced from the series The Valley of Fire. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us on.
So, my first question actually is for Ian. Thus far, your publisher, Raconteur Press, has focused on short story anthologies, and
Yes.
you've very recently broken into doing more. You've started doing some kids' books, and you're planning to do novels, and this is your first novel release. So, what
Mhm.
was it that led you and your team to make this step into this new era of publishing for you guys?
Poverty. We love doing the anthos. Anthologies are great. We're discovering new authors all the time. We're bringing new authors that write really well to people um, so that they can be read and be seen. But anthos don't make a lot of money,
Hmm.
and I have a mortgage,
Yep.
so um, novels are where the money is. What
Hmm.
money there is novels. So
Yep.
we were going to have to start doing them sooner or later if we wanted to keep putting food on the table. So
Gotcha. Well, that's a good answer. It's honest. I like it. So, for John, when I bring authors on to talk about their books, I always ask them for their elevator pitch because that's the thing that might hook a reader or make someone interested. So, what is your elevator pitch for Misplaced?
Asking an author to do an elevator pitch is always a bad idea. I tell stories for a living. Basically, this is in the same world as Wolfhounds, which has been a very successful sci-fi, slightly space opera series for me. And this takes place in the same world, but it's about a different character. I call it Misplaced because he's a noble that his parents fled during the coup and all of the people being executed. His parents died. So he has no idea who he is. The only reason he even knows he's a noble is because his older sister, he was four, about 5 years old when this happened. His older sister remembers, and so he knows he's got a few things going on because the nobles have cybernetic interfaces, so they get certain benefits from that. And they get lucky; they get picked up by somebody who cares about them to some extent. The biggest fence on the planet they live on, effectively now. And this is a story about him discovering who he is and learning about what he can do. And going, 18 years old, young, dumb, and stupid. Then he gets into the bad years, and then he's going to legitimize himself as far as start doing more legitimate stuff. I'm actually started the sequel yesterday.
Oh, good. Yeah, Ian is very happy about that. That's good. That is good news to hear. So, with this being set in the same universe as your Wolfhounds series, for readers who are curious, is this a potential jumping off point for that you could start here, or do you recommend reading book one in Wolfhounds? How do you recommend that?
You can go either way. You can read this on its own. If you get the novel, you'll get a little extra goodie at the end, which, because when I started writing this, I just finished it and gave it to Ian and all them to look at it and, editing and stuff. And I realized that there was something I hadn't really gone over, minor stuff, but how spacesuits and armor and all that work, because I had explained all that in Wolfhounds.
Hmm.
So in that case, I wrote a little like, spacesuits and you thing as the guy sits in a briefing because he's just at the end, he's joined something and they're giving him a briefing on stuff. And even though he knows most of it, not all of it, it allowed me to fill in the readers on certain things that they might have had questions because they had minor exposure to this stuff, but they'll get more in the next book.
Okay.
But it is a separate place. It's another kingdom. It's nowhere near. It's a bit of travel. It's old. It's got its own customs and stuff like that. And as the story continues, you'll learn about more and more about what went on the other thing. But only in what's relevant to this story where you learn about what's going on in Wolfhounds. So
Okay, that's a good answer. So, for Ian, this book is published in a bit of a different way than most novels, especially today, are
Correct.
published. It is handled as a serial where you are releasing three parts, and I believe 3 weeks. Is that right?
Well, we're actually going to be publishing all of our novels this way.
Oh, okay.
All of our
Led to
novels
this.
will be in serials, and they'll be released on KDP. I think Kindle, no, whatever. It'll be
Kindle Unlimited.
released once every week, and then after the third or final installment is out, there'll
Hmm.
be a week for everybody to get them, and then we'll pull them down and we'll release the ebook and the Dead Tree edition.
Okay.
So, and the serialized part will have some stuff in it that won't be in the later release, and later release will have extra goodies that aren't in the serialized part. So you'll be able to download read the serialized parts, or if you want, you can wait and get the final ebook and final Dead Tree if you want. It's either way is good.
And with the difference between the serial and the full novel, there are two different covers for it that I've seen in different places. So what led to this cover design for it and the decision to use two different ones?
Um, well, that's actually a Cedar Sanderson question because
Okay.
she's our artist, and I'm I'm not dumb. I said, "Here you go, Cedar, make it happen." So we wanted to give everybody something, a reason to buy one or the other.
Hmm.
That was hers. Is let's do a pretty cover for the serialized and another cover that's similar for so everybody it makes them collectible.
Yep.
I think that's the word I'm looking for. My idea was if we have them different, they'll know which version they've got.
Hmm. Okay.
I would be a little frustrated if they look the same. And I wound up getting volume one, the um, complete one, and the volume two. Or I would get frustrated if so. I want to make them a little different so that they can look and see which one it is. If
That
that
makes
makes sense.
sense. And also, I thought that, it appeals to different kind of cover styles because they're both
Oh yes,
very unique. One, the full novel style is it feels like kind of classic sci-fi with the brush strokes, whereas
yes,
the serial seems very modern sci-fi and feels very artificial in a good way. It feels more artificial. So and there are people who love that style. And so I figured, if you people might pick it up based off style, cover style
yes.
alone.
Well, and we're trying to harken back to the grand old days of pulp.
Hmm.
I don't know if many people know this. John does. Some of the classic books that everybody raves about were released in analog
Hmm.
or the old magazines,
Yeah.
um, and they were released over a period of time. The Stars My Destination, my favorite book of all time, was released over I think a 6 month period,
Hmm.
and then it was gathered together. We're just harking back to that. Some of the grand old science fiction. John's grinning in the back there. The grand old science fiction was released a month at a time in Outstanding or Analog or Asimov. So we're trying to harken back to that feel.
Okay. I think it will because I think that people who love the serial and the weekly release and the anticipation will like it, and then those who also just are like, give me the full novel. You're getting best of both worlds.
Yes.
So back to John. With this book, it's part of a series, part of the Valley of Fire trilogy. When you were going out planning this, did you have the idea for the full trilogy ahead of time, or did you have the idea for book one? And do you plot things out, or do you find it out as you're writing?
All of the above. This book, when Ian asked me to do their first book, which as an author, you can't turn that down. And also, Ian's been a friend for years.
Sure, you could have.
No, 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 I couldn't. Yeah, the first taste is free. So I decided, okay, I'll write the story. Then I'm thinking about what I'm going to write, and it's like, well, Wolfhounds is really hot right now. This allows me to expand into that universe, into other things I want to do as well. So this gives me a sidetrack. And at first, I thought I was just going to write a book, And then as I got down to plotting, I don't even know if I'd started it. And I turned to Ian and said, "It's got to be more than one book." Um, I have kind of a history of this. I mean, I was supposed to write a short story for someone a couple of years ago and ended up a 5-book series.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't, I wrote them at some point and said, yeah, that short story, it's a no-go. It's like, it's already past book 1, so I'll write you a different short story. And as I thought about it, it's to really cover the things I wanted to do. There was no way it was going to be just one novel. I need more space. So I decided it's going to be a trilogy. And I had the general idea. And it was funny because I'm explaining it to Ian, and he's hearkening back to the great sailing ships of like the 1700s, the 1800s, because there is a lot of parallels when you start dealing with ships and voyages that take weeks or months.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a royalty-based kind of a system, because Wolfhounds, it's an empire, and they have certain advantages and disadvantages. I don't know if you've read it or not.
I have not.
It's very imperial in a lot of things, and there's things put in the science that keep the empire going, and to keep it as an empire and the only one out there. So, and then you've got the smaller kingdoms who can only go so big, again, because of one of the premises of the story. So it really harkens into that whole kind of a thing. And because cybernetic interfaces, the power of your interface, and there are not a lot of people, well, it's probably 10% to 5% of the population. Depending on the level of your interface, you are classified effectively as a noble, because the people who set the system up from Earth decided that's how they were going to do it. And the more powerful you are, the more you can do, and the higher rank you are. So you have the emperor, you have the dukes, you have the earls, you have the the counts, and you have the barons, and of course both sexes. It's all explained pretty much. So on this planet where the whole thing takes place, the kingdom of Arrakis, I probably mispronounced that. It's very Greek based, the original settlers who settled it. So a lot of stuff is based on Greek history, the names of things. They're run by a very powerful duke who is the king, and it's a bigger system. So they have 3 systems, which is a lot for anyone who's not part of the empire. And there's a lot of the king's not an idiot. The guys who've run this, because this kingdom's been around for over 1,000 years, mm-hmm. They understand the ebb and flow, and they're trying to tie themselves into bigger things. And it's like when we say at one point we have ships sailing around letters of marque, effectively. So it's a pretty rich story in certain ways, and it's mostly follows one person, but I have other people I need to follow in this story as well. So there will be a certain amount of, we see this person, we see that person, because there's a sister who we got to come back to and talk to, and then there's his current love interest, who long term, this is who he's going to be with, and they were together for a while. Now they're apart, so we're going to have to follow her a bit to see what's going on with her.
So while Ian talked about why the decision to make it serialized, and also talked about some of like the inspirations for the great serials in the past, John, what were some potential inspirations for this story, whether it came from authors or particular books in science fiction that influenced your writing?
The biggest influences of my writing were probably Robert Heinlein, Roger Zelazny. A number of those guys, the old masters. I read a lot of them. There's some newer ones I like too. Oh God, I can't remember the guy's name, but the Solar Clipper series is a good current one. And it just is a whole bunch. So when I sat down to write this, it really was when I had this whole idea for a story a long time ago for the Wolfhound series. And at the time, because of what I was writing, I didn't think it would sell, so I set it aside. Ended up pitching it to someone a few years ago. They liked it. I wrote it. Then they said, "No, we changed our mind." One of the publishing companies, so I put it out myself. Now, it was always meant to be this great spanning kind of a story. We have this guy who is not the kind of guy you'd really want, and this is for the Wolfhound series,
Hmm.
to be the guy in charge of everything, because this guy can be really nasty because of the way he grew up. Um, but he's put in I'm trying to think of you know, the unexpected king kind of a situation. And
Hmm.
that's what spawned the whole Wolfhound thing. And it's a huge series. It's book 6 will be written right after I finish this book, this is the sequel to Misplaced. So I have this whole world, and that's been influenced by so many people. Um, I almost went off on a tangent there for something else, but I wanted to have a lot of different places and a kind of a spanning epic so I can grow into it,
Hmm.
and especially if you're going to start making some parallels with, like, the times of the clipper ships and the big ships and all that stuff, and people traveling and commanders being off on their own and having a certain amount of leeway in how they want to handle things. And I just wanted that kind of a feeling. So it gives you a bit more room for exploration, a bit more room for personal stories, um, and a bit more for, like, how people handle things when they're on their own, how people have to rise to the occasion. Everybody, things not micromanaged from back home. People have to go out and do their thing, and whether they succeed or fail, whether they do great things or just fail miserably or are lost forever, it's all out there. So it's just kind of hard to really get into detail as to the why of it. It just grew
Hmm.
over time. And like I said, when was asked to write this and I thought about it, as like, I want to put it in this universe because I want to expand this universe.
And so, Ian, when you got the book and you had to figure out where to split it, did you have natural breaks where you knew, oh, well, it has to be here, or did you choose that you wanted to make each part a specific length? When you guys do that for this and all your future books, what's your thought process?
We have a set number that we look for, 20,000 words,
Hmm.
and then we set 20,000 words, and we look at the 20,000 word mark, forward and back a little bit to see, because every novel has natural breaks.
Yep.
So if 20,000 words was picked for a reason. There's an Amazon reason. We picked a 20K, and then we move forward and back. And John's had great had great break points. The break points were just fine. Worked like a charm. So
Okay.
uh, yeah,
Yeah, I
It.
didn't know they were going to ask for me to do this because I talked to Cedar about it. So, it's a 3-act play, and the
Mhm.
original, back when it was only one book, I have a 3-act play on my whiteboard. I have whiteboards all over this part of you
Hmm.
can't see it, fortunately. You can't see what I'm planning. Um, and, I did it as a 3-act play. And then when I started writing the book, and it's like, okay, while I'm going to make it a trilogy, I still had a 3-act plan in mind. Because yeah, books tend to have breaking
Yep,
points in them and stuff, and
yep,
it's not terribly hard to figure that out as an author to kind of massage it a little bit to make it work better.
yep.
And Ian, for your future books, do you plan to make this an invite only, or is the novel system through agents? How do you guys run that for people who
Okay.
might be interested?
For your audience that doesn't know me, I'm not a publisher. I have no idea what I'm doing. What I am is a small unit commander from the military and from law enforcement. So what I'm doing with Raconteur Press is I'm setting up a small special operations unit. So we took a year and we did anthologies and we went hard and fast to see where the breaking points were. And when
Hmm.
something broke, we fixed it and kept going, drove on till we broke something else. We spent that year. We got everything down for anthology. So now we're doing it with novels. We're going to push ourselves, see where we break, fix the break, push ourselves so we break again. And I figure about a year.
Okay.
So for this year, we've picked people like John who trust us with their work, and understand that um, this is a trial period, y'all, and they're guinea pigs.
Hmm.
So God bless John for handing us this. So we're using this to figure out what we're doing. And then we figure 2025 will be our novel year. And 2026, we're going to open up, send us stories.
Gotcha.
We're not big enough yet that we can say, no, we don't want that. Um, we can't pick and choose yet. I
Hmm.
can pick and choose at what we accept.
Hmm.
Um, my mantra in this whole thing has been it must be entertaining, all else is negotiable.
Hmm.
If you send us, and we've already had this, if you send us work that's not entertaining, I'm gonna say, this is not really what we're looking for. I I encourage you to self-publish and keep all the money instead of splitting it with us.
Hmm.
But we want entertaining stuff. We want thrilling heroics, um, message fiction. I won't say it's out because the original series of Star Trek had some fantastic message fiction,
Hmm.
but it was entertaining. It
Yep.
was entertaining first, and the message, half the time you didn't realize there was a message until it was over with and you were drinking coffee. We want the same thing. We want stuff that guys will read. We
Hmm.
want good guys and bad guys and thrilling heroics, and just send us good stuff. As far as agents, um, I don't know yet, but I'm not a fan of agents.
Okay.
I'm really not. Um, and we can get off on that on a whole different interview. Um, but no, it's I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to your agent.
Yep.
So in 2026, when we open up, and we're taking some submissions now. When we open up, one, I want to talk to you. Send me something entertaining. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to somebody who will talk to you and then get back to me. No, no. I am a small unit guy.
Hmm.
Talk to me.
Gotcha. Now, part of this initiative that you're starting is to really make fiction, particularly for boys with the younger
Hmm?
grades, and then for men with these novels. And so, John, when you're writing these types of novels, what is it that you think captures men, or even maybe teenagers if they're reading it? But what is it that captures their attention with your books and specifically with Misplaced?
Action, adventure, somebody who is more starts off as more or less an average person. They may
Hmm.
have better abilities to some extent or another, but a lot of it comes down to is it's just somebody who's decided that they're going to do these things and try to make themselves better or get into something and do something. Yeah, for certain aspects of the story, they're born with something in this particular world. But I've written other stories and stuff too where that's not the case. I mean, I've been a reader all my life. All right, I've read a lot of books. I mean, that behind me is about a quarter of the books I used to have. I sold off a lot several times in moving because it was just getting to be too much. Those are
Hmm.
the ones that survived the selection process. And there's a lot more on than they look because they're at angles and stuff.
Hmm.
But I started writing as an independent author to write stories for guys. Right. I started in 2011 because I wanted stuff you couldn't buy anymore. And I know what men want because I know what I want. And so that's what I did. There's action, there's adventure, there's a certain amount of the woman, the guy gets the gal, the guy gets the gold, the guy gets the things he's after. People rise to the occasion, people do heroic things, people invest, loyalty, they have standards, ethics, morals, the kind of things that I grew up with. I'm in a lot of ways, I would consider myself a Heinlein type hero as a human because of all the things I've done in my life.
Hmm.
I mean, I was in the service. I know how to fly airplanes. I've flown jets. I became an engineer. I did a lot of stuff in engineering. I worked on a lot of very interesting programs and stuff that became very big. I've lived in a lot of different places in the world. I've had some very interesting and unique hobbies, things I've done. I used to wrench on cars a lot. Now I build electric guitars. That's my hobby. I have a lot of interests in a lot of things, and I've always believed that anybody can do anything if they pursue it. And those are the kind of things I want to push on people. And guys want to see that. They want to be entertained. They don't want to be talked down to. They want to be given a good story. They want to feel good when they set it down. They want to be happy they read it. And these are the things I aim for. It's hard to make people happy. People go on about, oh, this moved me. It made me, because it made you feel bad or something like that. All these downer stories. It's easy to depress somebody. We've all seen it in life. It's easy to bring someone down. Raising people up is hard. It
Hmm.
really is. And that's for the most part what I try to do. I want to make people happy. Um, and as a surprise thing is I have a lot of women readers too, which
Hmm.
I'm writing books for guys, but a large proportion of my audience are also women,
Mhm.
which, and with the number of readers who are women, because there are more women readers than guys, that was a surprise, but it helps too. It helps a lot.
This is a good
So,
transition, Ian. We were talking before we started recording about your announcement at LibertyCon last year that I was at, where you announced this publishing initiative for boys, and
right.
you mentioned people who came up to you afterwards. I thought you'd
Yes,
share a little bit what happened there.
it was a little bit shocking. So we announced that we're going to be publishing boys books, um, books especially for boys.
Hmm.
The books that used to be on library shelves aren't there anymore.
Hmm.
And after we were done with that, that was we hadn't told anybody. That was our opening announcement.
Hmm.
And the number of ladies that came up and said, "Oh my God, I used to read those books." And one of them said that it was very trenchant observation was that boys will not read books written for girls, but girls will happily read books written for boys.
Hmm.
And every woman I talked to, every lady I talked to at LibertyCon said, "Yeah, I want to read those. I want my daughters to read those." It's like, all right, we lucked into something here.
Yeah.
There's there was Twitter, social media about a year ago was all aflame with the men aren't reading anymore,
Hmm.
which is horse feathers. Men just aren't reading books written for women.
Yeah.
Men are reading stuff. I was watching John Van Stry's numbers. John has a hell of a good. Uh, he was what number 12 on Amazon there for a while, John, in science
Yeah, it's
fiction.
science fiction, all science fiction. I was like number 12.
Number 12. Men are reading. He's writing for men. Men are reading. Men are reading. It's just that traditional publishing is publishing books written by women for women, and men don't want to read that.
Hmm.
So, all right, there's an audience out there. There's a need. Let's fill it, especially with boys.
So, John, I did want to give you a quick moment to transition to talk about another book series that's coming out. You have a book that came out a while ago that's Summer's End, that's with Bain, and
Yes.
then you also have the new book that's just came out last month, Sometimes in the Fall. I thought I'd give you a moment to talk about what those books are and what might intrigue them to readers.
Okay. Summer's End is basically about a young man who it's a dystopian kind of a future. It's like a couple hundred years in the future on Earth. He actually lives in Texas. He is just graduating from like engineering school, as in ship engineering school. He's an engineer three. He's going to go off and work on ships in the solar system. Faster than light drive hasn't been discovered. Gravity is well, I don't want to use foul language, but we know gravity and we
Hmm.
have gravity drives and all sorts of stuff. And it's kind of a coming of age, kind of him going off and exploring the solar system because with gravity so well understood, and it's been several hundred years now that gravity's been well understood, The solar system has people living on every place they can. You know, any planet can be colonized, has people living on it, any moon, any asteroid. People have moved things around quite a bit because you got gravity drive and sunlight. Well, guess what? You can do a lot of stuff with unlimited free energy. So everything that exists is out there. Um, he started out, in the gangs, in street gangs. He has a very huge chip on his shoulder because you have the dolers who are on the dole, and they're like the built-in electoral base for the Earth government. You have the proletariat, the proles, the guys who do all the work. They're the small part of the population, and you have the elites or the elitists. They got all the money, like the Vanderbilts, whatever you want to call them. They're the smallest part of the population. They
Hmm.
run everything. His mom was an Ely who went off to find herself. And then once she did, she realized that, yeah, being a prole isn't what she wanted. She went back to daddy, leaving son and husband behind. Husband, works. He works at the Boca Chica spaceport. He's a technician. He does navigation suites and technician repairs on bridges of ships when they come in for work while they're transferring cargoes and stuff. He's got a stepbrother now because dad remarried, who is literally a super genius. He gets a wake up call when he's about 13 that he needs to like fly right and get out of the gangs and do something else. So he decides he wants to become an engineer. And this is his backstory. His brother helps him, and they have a bit of a deal. His brother's like, once you get settled, I want you to get me off Earth,
Hmm.
which is going to be a bit tough because he wrote a paper a long time ago that attracted a lot of interest. And now that he's known as a genius, he's not supposed to leave Earth. He's not allowed. It's the government, which is run by the rich people who want to get more money, have a lot of control and stuff. So we learn about Dave as he goes off and makes his way. He starts off on what's effectively a tramp steamer,
Hmm.
a Panama size cargo ship. You have Panamax, it's a Panamax size. Or, and you've got new Panamax. There's a lot of different classes. And container cargo still rules because it's a really great idea that'll probably be with us forever. So this is a story of him getting out there, coming of age, helping his brother, figuring out his way in life.
Hmm.
And the things that happen to him, there's some interesting twists and turns. He keeps trying to put his past behind him and grow beyond what he was. He's got a dark past, a very dark past. The sequel, I get it in the camera, picks
Hmm.
up with him. I don't know if that was on the tape or not, but it
It's
picks up
good.
with
You got it.
him. Okay. As he is 3 months after the end of the first book. And things happen. He thought he was done with Earth, but there are people on Earth who weren't done with him. So he has to do stuff. And then you've got this group of crazies called the Venetian Moral Collective, who pretty much run Venus now. Um, Political as a religion kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Um, they get involved. And so he has to do some things. And all the time, he's trying to make a living. He's trying to be good to his new home where he's become a citizen, Sirius. He lives on that out in the asteroid belt. And a lot of things happen to him. And because of his background, the things he knows, the things he's tied into, he's got certain advantages and abilities now of things he can do. And when you get right down to it, he can be a cold, hard bastard. When his family is threatened, when his people are threatened, when members of his family have been killed. And he will do what it takes, to protect them. So there's a bunch of that in there. And also there's the whole bit where he sits back at times and he wonders about the things he's done. Was I right to do this? Um, and there will probably be about two more of these because as the story progresses, I really never came up with the series name. I probably should. Bane's been bugging me too. It might be called the Four Seasons or the Seasons something or the something seasons because, summer's end, sometimes in the fall. The next one's probably going to be Winter's Promise. So
Okay. Well, thank you for telling us about it.
very high.
Um, so, Ian, you kind of talked about this a little bit before, but wanted to give people a very specific place. If people want to go get the serial for Misplaced online, where specifically should they go?
Amazon. Amazon.
Amazon?
We were doing pre-orders earlier. I think we're off pre-order period, but don't quote me on that. I've been busy doing other things. Um, yeah, Amazon. We'll be releasing through Amazon. Um, please buy this book. Please. I have a mortgage. Please buy this book.
At
And
least buy the full novel if you don't buy the serials.
yeah,
Buy all of it.
yeah. And then for I'll go to each of you, starting with John. If people want to follow you online, keep up with updates from you, where should they look?
I have a website, johnvanstry.com.
Hmm.
You can just plug my name in Google if you want to find where I am. I have a mailing list on my website. I typically only send out stuff when I have a new book out. I mean, you can follow me on Amazon, but Amazon can be slow and sometimes misses updates when
Hmm.
people release books. I'm also on Facebook. Even have a fan club, surprisingly. I didn't start it on Facebook. There's a Discord out there as well. So I'm in a number of places. I mean, if you follow me on Goodreads, usually I make announcements there for stuff.
Hmm.
I'm on Twitter. I don't manage that account anymore, but announcements go out on that. So I'm in a lot of the social media spaces because you got to do that so people can know when things come out.
And Ian, if people want to follow you and also Raconteur Press for all the books for boys, books for men, and your anthologies, where can they follow that?
Raconteur Press is the most important. We're on Substack. We have a web page, but it's kind of static. Go to Substack. raconteurpress.substack.com has we update everything there. We got a lot of stuff going on, and that's where all of our open calls
Hmm.
are at that Substack. I used to have a web page or a blog. Me and Epic got cross threaded. I'm on Substack, the Bogue Scuffle Gazette. Just go to Substack and look for Bogue Scuffle Gazette, and that's where I am. I'm not doing social media these days because I like to sleep. I have a Facebook account, but Raconteur Press is on Facebook,
Hmm.
and we have a author fan group called the North Texas Troublemakers on Facebook. Go to Facebook, look for North Texas Troublemakers,
Hmm.
and that's our author fan group there. I won't be in there very often, but I have a whole bunch of minions who will be.
Hmm. And I do believe that Raconteur Press also has a Twitter that they update with like the open
We do
calls
actually.
and
Yes,
announcing when new releases
we have
come.
a Twitter that we're still trying to break. We have Facebook, Substack, and an Instagram, I think.
Okay.
If you look for Raconteur Press on any of those, you'll find us. But the best engagement, as the kids say, is on Substack.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, both for coming on the channel to talk about this book. I hope it is very successful for both of you.
Thank
Um,
you.
uh, and until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.
Thanks
Thank
for
you all.
having us.